Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Zeeb with Traction Real Estate Mentors here to do a webinar on wholesaling, 60 days till done. This is how you find more deals, make more profits, and get more freedom in your life. Let's dig right in. I thank everyone for being on time. So when it comes time to do wholesaling, a couple of things I want to talk about. Let me frame out what I'm going to go over tonight as well. And that is, I don't want you joining the Brotherhood of Boredom. So I know sometimes webinars can be a little dry, presenters can be a little bit quiet. I'm a little bit zany, going to get a little goofy, and I'm doing that to entertain you and not let you fall asleep or doze off, because after all, we only have until midnight. So I'm not sure you got the message on that one. We're going until midnight. No, just kidding. We'll go about an hour, just about an hour or so. So hang tight. You'll be in good hands. I'm in the driver's seat and happy to have you along for the ride, because my goal today is really simple. I want to teach you how to make $9,600 in the next 60 days without ever actually owning a property. How does that sound? 60 days without ever actually owning a property. That is what we are after. And here's how you're going to do it. First off, let's define wholesaling, because I don't actually like the word. The word wholesaling is problematic at best. It doesn't mean a lot of things to a lot of people. If you look it up in the dictionary, Mr. Webster tells us that the wholesaler is the merchant middleman, which makes no sense. I mean, what on earth is a merchant middleman? And who runs around saying, hey, Daddy, someday when I grow up, I want to be a merchant middleman? It just doesn't happen that way. So I like to have terms that mean more than that. So I've rebranded it. I call wholesaling rapid cash generation, because rapid cash generation is what it does. You'll hear other terms, and maybe I'll use some of them interchangeably. I'll still refer to it as wholesaling. You might hear me talk about flipping, but flipping is interesting, because do you fix up and flip a property, which would be rehabbing it first, or do you put it under contract and flip it, which is what I'm teaching you how to do? So the flipping's not totally exact, and then a lot of people think of illegal flipping when they use the term flipping, and there's nothing illegal about flipping. There was things that get done illegally. That's the difference. Like driving. Driving's not illegal, but there are ways of driving illegally. Well, flipping's not illegal, but there are ways of flipping illegally, and that's not what I'm going to be teaching you, because I want to teach you how to do things the right way. So just stay away from fraud and collusion and everything else, and you have nothing to worry about. So a lot of different terms that we'll use as we go, but generally, I like to use the word wholesaling, and that means rapid cash generation, because that is exactly what it does. Here's the key to your real estate investing business, particularly your real estate wholesaling business, is that motivated sellers are the key. The entire key that unlocks this business is getting you in touch directly with motivated sellers. And motivated sellers, they're motivated because they have a problem. Motivated sellers need to sell quickly, and they need to sell it even more than they want to sell it. And because of that need to sell, price is not the number one issue in that negotiation. Now think about that for a minute. If you're negotiating with somebody whose number one issue is not the price that they get, then that opens it up that you can be concerned about price. It's okay if you need to get the right price, but for them, it's more important that you solve their problem, stop their pain, stop the bleeding, end the financial crisis that they're in. Whatever the situation happens to be, that's what's important to them, is getting that problem solved. So when you look for properly motivated sellers, and there's a lot of different things that motivate people, but when you find those properly motivated sellers, they're flexible. They want to do the deal with you because they're not hung up on price. So think about what could motivate a seller. Foreclosure is an obvious one. Being an out-of-state absentee owner, or being a tired landlord because you've evicted somebody so many times you're sick and tired of it. Moving into your town, moving out of your town, getting a job, losing a job, having children and no longer having space, having those children grow up and no longer needing the space, getting old and not being able to handle the stairs anymore, or not being able to handle the weather where the property is located, or passing away and then someone else inherits that property, a child or a niece or a nephew, and then having to deal with that property. Those are all situations that motivate people to need to sell even more than they want to sell. So for everything we talk about on this webinar, I want you conscious of the fact that we are after motivated sellers, and it's those motivating factors that we are looking for. So let me explain rapid cash generation, and you've probably never seen it explained out graphically. So if I could put this to you in a nutshell, you're going to understand everything that's going on here. So let's start with the motivated seller. And she's motivated for one of those reasons that we just talked about. And let's say it's Susie the seller, and Susie owns a house. And you come along, you, me, the rapid cash generator wholesaler, and you start doing your marketing like I'm going to talk to you about on this webinar. And you get your marketing out there, and you're looking for a motivated seller who needs to sell even more than they want to sell, whose price is not the number one issue in negotiation. And when they respond to you, you present them with a simple 4-page contract. Now, the length of a contract varies all across the country. They go from usually the lowest I've seen is 6 or 7 pages and as big as 43 pages. It's kind of crazy how big a contract can be. Now, can you imagine trying to present somebody with a 43-page, very formal legal contract? It's scary and it's intimidating, and it's not what I want you to do. The contract I use and the contract I want to teach you how to use is a whopping 4 pages. And just 4 pages, written in plain English, we're able to explain to the seller how the situation works, how we're going to be able to buy the property from them, and that offers us all the protections we need as an investor and also all the protections they need as a seller. So we come along with my 4-page contract and we negotiate out a price. Now, is that contract alone good enough? No. A contract alone, even when it's signed, is not legally binding. You need to bind it with something called earnest money. I use a portrait of a very good friend of mine. I use a portrait of Ben Franklin. So Benjamin Franklin on the $100 bill, that is all I bind my contracts with, is a whopping $100. Is that enough, Tom? I mean, gosh, I've always heard it takes 5%, 10%, 20% down. It doesn't. You can get away with $100, and you should. And if the seller is properly motivated, they're not going to worry about how much you have down. You tell them simply, you worried about how much I'm putting down, or do you want to get this deal done? And that overcomes the objection. They realize, yes, but you do indeed have to have the $100 down. So every time you sign a contract, you need to send that $100 to your settlement attorney or escrow company or settlement agent, who's ever closing the deal for you. You do need to tender that payment to make sure you have properly validated and locked in your contract. Ask me how I know, okay? Because I've had an issue with that in the past, but I have solved that problem and make sure I always do it. Now, in order to wholesale the property, because remember in wholesaling, we're not going to be the ones buying it. So what you do is you go to your, I call it my ATM machine, which is your cash buyers list. I have built a whopping cash buyers list with a bunch of investors who want to buy properties for cash. They will either rehab them or hold them and rent them out, so they're landlords. And the reason I call that my ATM machine is because when I go put a good deal into my ATM machine, money comes spitting back out. That's where I make my profits from. So from marketing to find good motivated sellers, negotiating great deals with them, and then going to my cash buyers list so that I have a cash buyer to buy that deal off of me. And here's what happens. I never have to buy the property. So let's say in this example, this is a property needing rehab. Well, I find the rehabber and I market to them, go to my buyers list. I tell them about the deal that I have, what's good about it, what the numbers are, how much it's worth, what it takes to repair it, what the value is, and my asking price. And we negotiate back and forth with the buyer. That's why negotiation is a key skill. You use it with the seller, you use it with the buyer. When my buyer agrees, I give them a simple 1-page assignment contract. I use an assignment contract, and it's a whopping 1 page long. Don't let that fool you. It's one super duper powerful page that has all the clauses I need to protect myself and to protect my promise to the motivated seller to help them out of their situation. Because nobody cares about me getting paid more than me, and nobody cares about helping out that motivated seller more than I do and that motivated seller themselves. So those are the two people I have to control things so that I can control and respect what's happening in the deal and make sure I'm getting paid and make sure their problem's getting solved. So it's up to me to have the right legal contracts in place, and that's why I use my specialized, it was a custom written 1-page assignment. So what an assignment effectively does is it says, look, anywhere you see Tom's name as the buyer on the contract, swap it out for the new guy. So in that first contract, I am the buyer and the seller is the seller. On the second contract, on the assignment contract, I am now known as the assignor, and the ultimate end buyer, my rehabber in this case, is known as the assignee. So they are the ones receiving the assignment. I am the one giving the assignment. And they paid me for that privilege. It's a beautiful thing. I'm simply paid for them to take my contract off of my hands. And I love it that way because, as you'll see in a second, I don't need any money. I don't need any credit. I don't have any risk, really, when it comes right down to it. So at settlement, here's what happens. It's not me showing up with the money. My ultimate end buyer, the rehabber, shows up with the money. A chunk of that money comes over to me, and that's my wholesale fee. But the lion's share of the money goes to the seller to pay off their mortgage or go into their pocket, whatever it happens to be, whatever their equity position is. And then at settlement, now pay attention to your screen because this is really important. At settlement, that property transfers directly from my seller to my ultimate end buyer. It never comes over into my name. And that's really important because I don't want to pay double title fees. I don't want to, for double title searches, double title insurance, double attorney's fees. I don't want to pay double anything. And there's one very important thing that I also skip, and that's paying short-term capital gains taxes. Now, a lot of people never consider the tax impact of what they're doing. But if you own a property for less than 1 year and a day, so 12 months and a day, which is definitely the case when you're wholesaling, you would have to pay short-term capital gains tax, which is the highest tax out there. And why would you want to lose 30 to 40% of your deal? Again, it depends on your tax bracket, but 30% of your deal lost because you're doing maybe a double closing, which means you own it first and then you resell it. So in a double closing, it's A to B, B to C. So seller to buyer, buyer to ultimate end buyer. There's two transactions. That racks up all sorts of extra fees. It's not needed. I know some people teach it that way. I flat out don't agree. The assignment is the way to go because with the assignment, rather than A to B and B to C, it's just simply A to C. And that's a much better way of doing it. And it keeps it clean, it keeps it simple, and it gives you the ultimate control as you go through. That's what happens at settlement. How about a little bit about me? Well, my start to my real estate entrepreneurial investing career was kind of interesting. It started underwater. It started when I was flat out drowning horribly. I had a 9-to-5 job that I hated, and I was tired of it. I wanted to get out, but I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know what it was inside of me that was troubled. And hey, I did what most employees do. I saved up my money, and I took my 2 weeks off, and I went on a big, grand vacation. And I went to India with a bunch of friends of mine. And one of the big events we did early on in the trip was whitewater rafting. We went whitewater rafting on the Ganges River. So I've saved up all my time off and all my money to go on this great adventure trip with my friends. And as we're on the raft and we're crashing through the rapids, we go through a class 5 rapid on the river, and there had been a lot of rain, and it was pretty intense and pretty tough. And I couldn't stay on board the boat. I remember every last second of going overboard and desperately grasping, to the cable on the side of the boat and trying to grab it, and I couldn't. And then suddenly, I was sucked down into the Ganges River. And I'm tumbling and I'm turning and I'm bumping in the rocks, and I have a helmet on, I have a life vest on, but you still start to wonder. And then I had this massive sensation of needing to breathe. I kept bumping in the rocks, and I really needed to breathe more and more. And you start to worry that what if I don't come up? Or what if it takes too long for me to come up? Or what if I get pinned up against a rock? Or what if I get stuck? Or what if I smash my face into a rock and break my head? Maybe this wasn't such a great idea after all. And oh man, is my time up? Because I'm not happy with what I've done so far. I don't feel like I've reached my true potential in life. I didn't think life was about sitting in my cubicle and worrying about running reports to the boss and only getting a modest raise every year. That wasn't what I wanted out of life. And I realized that in all these thoughts going through my head as I'm drowning. Well, suddenly my head pops above the surface of the water, which was good, except I couldn't breathe still because I had an esophagus full of water. And I needed to kind of get some of that water down, some of that water up. And when I turned to look, the first thing I see is the raft that I've fallen off of and all my buddies on the raft laughing like crazy, absolutely laughing hysterically at what a spectacle it had been to watch me go over the edge of the boat and get sucked underneath the water. For them, it was comedy. For me, it had been a real turning point. That near-death experience, I don't know if you've ever had a near-death experience before, but it has a way of changing you. And I came up feeling very much reborn and very much given a second chance. And I wanted to maximize my life now and not get stuck doing things I didn't want to do. But I had a small problem. When I went back home, I was still drowning. I was drowning being stuck in a cubicle. I was drowning in debt. I had racked up $113,000 in debt. I always wondered, how does that happen? How does it get so bad? Well, you have college loans, and then you have your apartment that you can't quite pay for. You have a car loan. You have a Visa. You have a MasterCard. You have an American Express. You have another Visa, another MasterCard, another American Express. They just keep handing these things to you. And if you have no discipline, and I had no financial discipline, I got myself deeper and deeper into trouble. So now I found myself suffocating again, drowning again, this time in debt. And it wasn't a happy time. Then something very interesting happened to me. A friend of mine handed me a book. They handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, have you read it? Because when I ask who's read it when I teach my seminars, it's almost unanimous. Usually about 97, 98% of the room has read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, I read it and it hit me. It opened my eyes. I finally understood what my problem was. Wait a minute. I'm an entrepreneur. I have the heart of an entrepreneur. I have the mindset of an entrepreneur. I want to be in control of myself, in control of my destiny, and I can't because I'm stuck in my job. So I said, that's all right. This book has shown me the way. I'm going to get out. The problem is, and I love Robert Kiyosaki and all his books, but there's no real rubber meets the road how-to knowledge in any of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series, is there? So the only thing I knew was that I was supposed to go out and buy real estate. I was supposed to buy rentals, and then over time, my wealth would accumulate and I'd make some money from the rents over time. So being that that was all I knew, I was stuck because with no real training and only the book, that's all I had to go on. That's a pretty serious issue. So I ran out armed with nothing more than that knowledge, and I bought this building that you see before you on the screen now. It's a 6-unit building in Brooklyn, New York, in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And this was my plan, was to buy a 6-unit building and watch what happened. I would make a ton of money on it, and it would be so great. And everything would fall into, all the stars would come into alignment, and everything would be absolutely perfect. Except that's not what happened. My plan failed miserably because it turned out I had 6 very professional tenants. By that I mean they knew exactly how to play the game to not pay their rent and yet still not be able to be kicked out of the property. And I made a situation that was already bad for me, I made it progressively worse because now I had the mortgage on this property that even though I wasn't being paid by the tenants, the bank doesn't care. They expected me to pay as well. So I got kind of stuck again. And once again, I'm drowning further into debt, stuck with a property that I don't know what to do with, that I'm not making any money on. I'm losing even more money now, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Because the real battle was with myself. The battle was internally. The battle was from not having any knowledge and not knowing what to do. I was clueless. I had never heard of a real estate investment association. I had no education other than reading this book. I had no money left, and I had no resources. I was absolutely, totally stuck. Not a great place to be. Here's the issue. Being all ginned up and excited from reading a motivational book is great, but motivation without the tools to succeed, you know what that equals? That equals drowning again. So I screwed up again, and then things finally turned around for me because I wouldn't take no for an answer. And I discovered wholesaling by accident. I kept my marketing going, and I brought my marketing closer in the home. And in this case, it was bandit signs. I started hanging bandit signs up aggressively in areas that I thought had the bread and butter homes that I was looking for and the kinds of motivated sellers that I was looking for. And I found one. And here, my grand idea was, hey, I'm going to rehab this for profit, because I still didn't know any better. So here I went from having a 6-unit building that was now draining me to going, hey, I'll spend a lot of money on a rehab when I really don't know what I'm doing there either. I can't rehab everything myself, and I'm not that great at managing crews. But I had this property under contract. I was intending to settle on it myself. I, at this point, had found my local real estate investors association, and I went there and said, hey, I've got this great deal, and I'm planning to renovate it, and everything's going to be great. And at one of the breaks, somebody came up to me, and this guy said to me, he goes, Tom, that's perfect for me. I'll buy it off of you. And I was confused. I said, what do you mean, buy it off of you? He goes, just wholesale it to me. Assign it to me. Just assign the contract and you're done. And I said, I don't understand. He goes, look, we're going to do a simple assignment. You assign the contract to me. I take it off your hands. I pay you for the property, and then I'll close on it, and I'll rehab it, and it'll be mine. And my first thought was, you can do that legally? Wow, I had no idea that it could be that way. He said, look, I'll guide you through it. Everything will be fine. Just kind of follow along. So I did. And what wound up happening was that settlement, I got a check for $22,819.66, because that was the difference between what I had it under contract for and what he paid me for it. And then he went on to renovate it and resell it for even more money. So I went, this is fabulous. I went from being broke, I went from drowning, I went from having a 6-unit building that was making things worse to making almost $23,000 without ever actually owning a property. I liked that a lot. I thought to myself, what if I could actually do this again and again and again and again? And that's just what I went out and did, because I realized that was what was finally going to give me my freedom. So I paid off, in about 5.5 months, I paid off all 113 grand in debt. Because the problem previous had been, look, how am I going to pay that off? No one's ever going to give me a $113,000 raise. And even if they did, I'd lose half in taxes. So how is that going to work? Explain to me a job or a business that doesn't include a gun or white powder where you could knock out 113 grand in debt. Well, I didn't need the gun and I didn't need the white powder. What I found was real estate wholesaling, rapid cash generation. So I paid all that debt off clear. That meant I was able to quit my job. I was able to travel without any more financial worries, and I never had to beg a boss for time off anymore. I've been unemployed for 16, 17 years now, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm very proud of it that way, and that's something I want to share with you too, because being able to live life on my own terms is what has made life awesome. That was the freedom I was craving. That was the freedom I was always looking for. That's the freedom rapid cash generation has given me, and that's the freedom I want rapid cash generation to give you. So why am I here? It's simple. This is Mikey Fitzgerald. That's me and Mikey Fitzgerald. That's a much heavier me in the blue shirt, and that is Mikey. And this is back in 2005. So how is that still relevant today? Because when I met Mikey, he came to me at a real estate meeting. He said, hey, you do a lot of deals. Can you teach me how to do it? And I went, well, I guess so. Let's see. I hadn't thought about doing it that way before. And Mikey suffered from a problem a lot of young guys have, and that's big deal-itis. He had to be doing the big deals, want to do the big deals. And I said, look, here's what you should do for marketing. I gave him a list of things to do. He went and did them. He chose particularly small newspaper ads in his local newspapers. And he got a call and found a house that was a good deal. And he put it under contract, and I encouraged him. I said, look, the best thing you can do is assign this for a profit. You'll make fast money. You'll have a good sense of success, and you'll be able to move on quickly. But no, not Mikey. Mikey needed to go for the big bucks, so he wanted to do the rehab and go for the big bucks on it. And I said, you're out of your mind, man. He said, no, it's going to take me 1 month and $10,000 to renovate this property. I said, it's going to take you 3 months and $30,000. And Mikey said to me, well, that's all right, Tom, because I've just got out of the Army. He was Army Airborne. And I've saved up $30,000, so I'll be just fine. But here's the thing. We were both wrong. It wound up taking him 4 months and $36,000 to do the deal, which was problematic. And he learned a lot of good lessons on this, such as wanting to move ahead. That it's better to have fast money than necessarily go for the big money. But when Mikey got his payday, it was almost $107,000. It was $106,760.65. Now subtract the $36,000 in repair off of that, and that's a very handsome and wonderful payday. And I've always been proud of Mikey for doing that, but it would have been so much easier to make a quick $20,000, $25,000, even $30,000 on that wholesale because the deal supported that. But there's a backstory to it. Here's what Mikey hadn't told me. This is the house that Mikey grew up in. And about what he told me was that, he grew up certainly not rich, certainly not glamorous, definitely on the poorer side of life. And his parents lost this house to foreclosure. And that had always bothered him, and he always wanted to kind of right that wrong. Well, about a year and a half after working with me on that big deal, he continued on using the techniques that I taught him, and he was able to negotiate and buy his parents' house back and put his parents back into that house. Now, I think that's pretty cool, and I think that's pretty awesome, being able to improve your life and the life of your family like that. These days, he's gone on to continue to do big things, and probably with a little bit of the big deal-itis. This building, and Mikey's from Hagerstown, Maryland, and this is the Grand Piano Building, which used to be a factory for grand pianos. It's not anymore, and Mikey bought it empty and repositioned it, and now he's got it leased out to the University of Maryland and a bank and a spa and a whole bunch of other tenants that he has in there. And he has almost single-handedly revitalized this little downtown area in the town where he's from. Because now other people want to go in and be in the other buildings and have a bit of a downtown life again. And I look at that and go, that is very cool. That he's able to fast forward now, many years after I trained him, take the basics of that training and be doing awesome things with it that affect not just him and his family, but his entire community. I think that's really awesome. And here's a picture of Mikey just this current year that's Governor Hogan, the governor of the state of Maryland. And he has the ear of the governor, and he gets to do the big deals, and he does the great development work that he's always wanted to do, because he started by understanding rapid cash generation. He started by listening to what I was telling him about how to find deals, how to make deals, and how to get paid. And that's important. So why am I here? It's because I want to meet more Mikeys. And I know there are Mikeys on this webinar with us now. And I want to know who you are, because that's become my mission in life, because I realize I can help people with that. People have said to me, Tom, look, you've got a talent for teaching. It's one thing to know what you're doing and do it. It's another thing to know what you're doing, do it, and be able to explain it to others in a way that they can digest and absorb and mimic. And talents aren't meant to be hidden. Talents aren't meant to be kept. You don't just go bury your talent in the ground and forget about it. You have to invest it and use it for good. And that's what I want to do. And so what I'm here for is to share talents with you so I can meet more Mikeys. And that's my goal in life. And I've packaged up what I do to make it easy for you. And the best part about that is no drowning required. You can do real estate wholesaling without having to drown first. So that's a great thing that way. Here's how it works. Grab a pen and paper. And I want to take you through my construction for how, I call it my framework. This is my master framework for how rapid cash generation wholesaling works. Draw 3 overlapping circles. This is called a Venn diagram, but don't worry about the technical term. Just draw 3 overlapping circles like this. And in the center, in that sweet spot, I want you to label that total freedom, because the ultimate end goal of what we are after in our business, our real estate wholesaling business, being real estate entrepreneurs, is we want to achieve total freedom. What is total freedom? Well, that's up to you. Total freedom gives you the freedom to choose. It lets you choose whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, with whomever you want. That is total and complete freedom. That's what I was after. That's what I think you're after too. And that is what I'm teaching you how to do, is achieve that total freedom. So here's how it works. There's three major elements that we have to get right to get total freedom. The first of those is finding deals. We have to learn how to find the deal. Finding deals is marketing. So we're going to talk about the elements that go into good marketing. The second element we have to get correct is knowing how to make the deal. Make the deal is a matter of negotiation. And most people are afraid of negotiation or don't like negotiation and are scared of it. That's largely because people view it as high-pressure sales, and nobody likes high-pressure sales. But good proper negotiation, the way I'm going to teach you, is not high-pressure sales. It's fun, it's exciting. I'll show you how in a little bit. The third element then is getting paid. We have to know how to get paid. The logical conclusion of good negotiation is the word yes. We want to get them saying yes. From that point, we have to put it in a contract and navigate it through the settlement and avoiding the pitfalls along the way. So that is how we learn how to get paid. When we get those three elements right, the overlap of those is total freedom. Now, there's some interesting things that happen along the way. When we get our marketing right, that creates lead flow. It creates deal flow. And so to have a constant flow of motivated seller leads is what we're after. That's why it's important to get that marketing right. As we learn how to negotiate the leads that we get properly, because leads don't show up ready to go. Most leads show up lukewarm at best. It's the job of us as good negotiators to turn a lukewarm lead into a red-hot deal. When we learn to move people from no to yes, that gives us a degree of certainty in what we're doing. So label that overlapping area certainty, because when you know you can move somebody from no to yes, because yes is where you need to be, yes is where they need to be, that gives you a degree of certainty in everything that you do. Now, once you navigate a deal through the settlement and you get paid, how does that funnel back into our business? How does that funnel back into the find the deal and the marketing component? Well, the answer is that's where the growth comes from. You need to be reinvesting into your business. In a few moments, I'm going to give you my magic formula for how much I want to see you reinvesting in your business. But if you don't reinvest in your business, then your business stops. You come to a complete standstill where you're at, and that's no good. We don't want the business to stop and start. We want to get the business up and running and keep it flowing. Now, are there some risk points along the way? Well, absolutely. So every time, if you look at the circles, every time you hit a dimple in those circles, the transition between the circles is a risk point, and we have to fix those risk points, because if you screw up the marketing, then you fall out of the system because you have no leads. So if you don't get the marketing right, the risk is no leads. As we learn to make deals and do proper negotiation, move people from no to yes, what we have to do is if we don't get that right, if we don't learn how to make somebody say yes, then we have no deals. So we fall out of the system there with no deals. So we either have no leads or we have no deals. Now, the last component, from getting paid, if we don't reinvest in the growth that's needed to go back into our business, we have another problem, and that's flat out no freedom. If you do this stop-start, you have no freedom. It's a matter of reinvesting in the business and taking some of your profits and reinvesting into your marketing to keep your business moving and constantly have it as a machine. When you get that right, you get freedom. Get it wrong, you have no freedom. That's a big issue. Now, each of these three major areas breaks down into, there's 9 separate components. I'm going to walk you through those because it's important. So underneath each circle, let's break it down into 3 parts. The first thing you need to do in good marketing is learn who your market is. So the market is the first part of this. Market is the who. This is who are we after. We spoke a few moments ago about who are motivated sellers. What motivates them? Is it probate? Is it absentee owner? Is it tired landlord? Is it divorce? Is it moving into town, moving out of town, losing a job? Those kinds of things. Those are all motivating factors. So that's how you identify your market. Once you've identified the market, now we have to know what to say to these people, and that's known as the message. So you start with the market, and then you move to what the message is. What do we say to each of those individual people? Do we just say we buy houses? It's kind of boring. It doesn't really speak to what their problem is and give them the solution at the same time. So if we know somebody is a tired landlord from eviction, then let's speak specifically to that. Let's send them a message that speaks specifically to what that problem is so that we can move them from no to yes and start that process. That's what message is all about. Now, here's the thing. It's not enough to tell your market your message one time or two times or three times. You need to be multiplying. You need to be repeating your message again and again and again. It's multiplication of that message. It's the number of times that people hear it that finally makes it sink in. It's multiplication that will make your marketing successful. And I'll tell you some stories about this in a little bit as well. Once you find them, then the beginning phase of good negotiation is learning how to talk to them. Is what are we after? Who are they? What is their problem? We need to pinpoint what that problem is. So we ask them questions. Why are you selling? When do you need to sell by? What will you do if you don't sell? Because we're trying to understand what their problem is so we can pinpoint that problem, because that tells us a lot about them, and that helps us with the second part of negotiation, which is packaging up our offer. We need to, based on what they've told us when we pinpoint the problem, we want to package that up so we can put together a package that works for them, that solves their problem and entices them to say yes. But they're not going to say yes naturally. This is where a little bit of persuasion comes into play. So you've pinpointed the problem, you've given them a package solution that would work. Now we have to use good negotiation techniques to persuade them to say yes. So that's what we're after on the make the deal side, is pinpoint, package, and persuade. From the moment they say yes, real estate is it's a legal business. We can't, there's no oral agreement in real estate. We can't just say, hey, I'll buy your house, great, and it has to be in writing. So we do have to actually have a contract, get it in writing and move that along, and that is where contracts come into play. So the first thing upon them saying yes is we present them with a contract, the 4-page contract I'm talking about. We convince them to sign that contract. Once it's signed and we tender our $100, like I talked about earlier, then we have to navigate it through the pitfalls. We have to avoid the conflicts because it's not always smooth sailing all the way to the end. We need to learn how to manage those conflicts that come along, because ultimately what we are after is utter and complete control. We have to control it so we don't get bit by the conflicts. We have to control it, control our buyer, control our seller, control our attorney, control our situations, so that we get the deal done, because nobody cares about you getting paid more than you, and nobody cares about getting that motivated seller's problem solved more than you and that motivated seller. It's just flat out, no one else is going to do it. So it's up to you to control so that you get it done right. That is what we are after. So imagine for a moment making $9,600 on a wholesale deal. Here's the magic formula. I want you taking 6.25% of that deal, 6.25%, and putting that back into your marketing, okay? 6.25% in this case is $600. So when I cash my check, I get $9,600 from this example. That's my wholesale fee. I'm going to take $600 of that and reinvest back into my marketing. I'm going to buy more postcards, more ads. I'm going to do more marketing so that I can get more deals. But that leaves me with $9,000 left over. So what I'd like for you to write down now is, what are you going to spend that $9,000 on? What is it? Do you pay off debt? Do you buy a car? Do you take a kid on a trip? Do you take a vacation? What is it for you? There's no right or wrong answer here. But I want you to understand, what specifically are you going to spend your $9,000 on? Here's the number one reason people fail. They flat out can't find deals. You can't find deals because there's no marketing running. If you can't find deals and find deals properly, here's what happens. Get marketing wrong, it's tumbleweeds. It's crickets. It's the absolute sound of silence. Flat out, no deals, period. Until you learn to get your marketing right, no deals. That's a big problem. But let's flip that around. Let's say you do learn how to find deals and you do get your marketing right. When you get marketing right, some awesome things happen. You get a stampede. You get an absolute stampede of motivated sellers. That's what we're after. Because with that stampede, that's when the money starts to flow. When you get your deal flow right, you get your lead flow right, then the money starts to flow. That is what we are after. Let me introduce you to one of my students, Neva. Neva came to me and she had a set of problems she wanted to work on. She says, look, Tom, I want more time with my family. I want the security of knowing I can make my own money. And I want to get out of my job. It's not a bad job, but I worry about my job. What if there's downsizing, there's talk of a merger, what if layoffs occur? That could be a big problem. Having a good job is nice, but it's also golden handcuffs in a way because it doesn't give you the freedom that you're after in life. She says, I need direction in how to do that. So the plan we came up with, well, is let's flip houses, let's wholesale, let's rapid cash generate so that you're able to quit your job, which was great, except that her first deal flopped. So the first negotiation she had that went successful, and she got the seller to say yes, she put it under contract, but everything was wrong with this property. It was an ugly duckling house at the ugly end of a dead-end street, and not just a normal dead end, kind of a dead end where the road just collapsed into a drainage ditch, and there's mosquitoes everywhere, and it's just not nice. Then the house itself has no driveway, and it's at the top of 37 steps. It wasn't an attractive house. So, well, the seller was motivated and the seller was flexible. She had it under contract, but she couldn't sell the contract. And she understood then the need to strengthen your buyers list so you have even more buyers, but at the same time, it just wasn't going to sell. And it wasn't going to sell because the buyers worried about how they would eventually resell it or how long they would be stuck with it on the resale side of things. So that deal collapsed. Now, what's interesting is when Neva was using my contracts, and the way my contracts are worded, they're worded to protect you. I don't want you getting into trouble. And so when you have a properly structured contract, you have escape from it. So if there's a problem, you can basically press the eject button and get out. That gives you effectively zero risk. And if you have zero risk, you can move ahead confidently. You're just not going to worry about what might happen. So she was disappointed, absolutely. But we came up with a new plan, and that's let's go back, build your buyers list up even further because that is the ATM machine, and then get back to marketing. And her main focus with marketing, she said, all right, I'm going to do postcard marketing. And she chose my out-of-state absentee owners postcard that's in my system. And she focused on out-of-state absentee owners. And in this case, it was her second round of mailing that worked out well for her. Why? Well, she got a call from a motivated seller, and he said, look, I want to sell my property. And she said, okay, well, wonderful. Why did you call me? He said, well, I called you because you're for real. She said, I don't get it. What do you mean by that? He goes, look, I called you because you're for real. I get a couple of these things in the mail every month, but I never see the same names twice. Isn't that interesting? A lot of people worry about all the competition out there, but you don't have to because the competition isn't doing anything consistently. He told her, I get a few of these things a month, but I never see the same names twice. I saw your name a second time, so I know you're for real. I know that you're actually in business. I want to sell my property to you. Now think about how cool that is. So totally awesome, because the result was when she put this property under contract, went to her new and improved buyers list, built the way I trained her to build her buyers list. This time she put the good deal in and $14,700 came spitting back out. So I ask you, would you send a second round of postcards if it meant making $14,700? Because I think that's a really good lesson in the importance of multiplication, in the importance of repetition. Absolutely. Neva learned that her buyer's list is worth its weight in gold and that repetition is worth its weight in gold. So what happens in your life when your confidence goes up? When you do this and know you can do it and know you can repeat the process again and again, what happens to your confidence? Doesn't that really massively change your life? Yeah, it goes up like a champagne cork and it's beautiful. Neva continued on with her theme of, hey, let's work repetition pretty strongly. Let's really multiply the effort. And she reached back out to sellers that had previously contacted her, that she had previously sent contracts to, but for whatever reason, she never got those contracts back and never did deals. She had a guy contact her and say, look, hey, we talked a few months back. It didn't work out. I really want to sell my property now because, surprise, surprise, things have changed. Time changes everything. Time absolutely changes everything. And this time she sent him a contract for less than what she sent him the first time around because as she looked at her numbers, she tweaked them and was a stronger and better negotiator from going through our training. And she gave him a contract. This time she turned around and wholesaled it for $40,000. So on her first two deals now, she's made $40,000 and $14,700. It's $54,700 in wholesale fees. Imagine what that does for you. Her confidence went through the roof. She was able to quit that job. Her husband was happy to have her quit that job. And then she's able to spend time with her kids. So I ask you, how many of you would like to do that? How many of you would like to have that kind of confidence that no matter what, you'll be okay? Because that's what successful real estate wholesaling can do for you. Can you get that level of satisfaction from your job? Can you get that level of confidence from your job? Can you even make that kind of fast money from your job? Here's the key. She took action. Remember what you said you were going to do with the $9,000 from your $9,600 deal? Well, in Nevas' case, that gave her $2,500 to reinvest in the marketing and $37,500 to do whatever she wanted to do with, right? To meet her goals and to spend her personally. She could basically do anything she wanted. Wouldn't that be nice? That's what it takes. So what's going to happen when you implement this into your life? It's a very important question. Let's consider the number one reason people stall. The number one reason people stall out is that they flat out, they can't get people to say yes. They have sellers stuck on no. No's the natural state. They can't move them from no to yes. That's what we want to work on in negotiation and learning how to make the deal. Here's what happens. What if you don't know what to say to a motivated seller? Kind of get tongue-tied and scared, right? It's not just what you say, but what if you don't know how to say it? Because what we say is important, but how we say it is important too. And what if you flat out don't know how to move somebody from no to yes? Then you're stuck. You never get the deals. That's massively problematic. On the other hand, when we get negotiation right, some really cool things happen. First off, you learn to say the right things at the right time. You learn to say what you need to say with confidence, and that is what seals the deal. Saying the right things at the right times with confidence seals the deal, and that's when you start making the money. Let me introduce you to another one of my students. This is Darrin. Darrin came to me. He said, look, I've got 4 kids. I've got a growing family. I would like to have some extra income for those 4 kids, and I would love to have a little extra space. A weekend home would be a great thing out in the country. I want to be able to find a place, buy it, and be out there on the weekends with kids because I'll get some peace and quiet, and it'll be fun for the family. I said, great, let's do that. What do you want to focus on? As Darrin went through my marketing materials, now I give you 85 different marketing techniques in my marketing system. That's not to overwhelm you, and it's not that you need to be doing 85. I want you doing 3. But if I give you 85, I know 3 of them will work, right? You can't say I don't know what to do because I know you'll find 3 that work for you, that fit you and your personality. In Darrin's case, he said, I want to target HUD homes. HUD homes is Housing and Urban Development. It's a branch of the government that deals with housing. And they issue loans, and sometimes they repossess those properties if the loans don't work out. So he said, look, I want to work on those, but here's the problem. I've been getting nothing but no to my offers. So that is a negotiation problem. So I said, let's go through my negotiation training and let's dig deeper and figure out what's happening. So, because if you want to be able to make more deals, you've got to get your negotiation right. So one of the issues was that there's this constant back and forth with the agent in charge of selling these HUD homes, and they kept saying no. So I said, well, we need to get some more intelligence gathering and figure out what is it that they are after, what is it that they need you to do, what is it that they need to have work out right for you. And one of the issues was, I told Darrin, I said, don't rush right into the next offer, because usually if you make an offer and they counter, and then you counter higher, then they counter and you counter, and it just keeps moving. What if we use a technique that I call refiring the same bullet? So you make an offer, they counter, but then you make the exact same offer again. So I want all of you to do that. Don't move up on your second offer. Actually restate your initial offer. It shows strong confidence in your offer. It shows that you know what you're doing. If anything, you justify more why you made that offer, and then they've already moved down, but you haven't actually moved up yet. So it's an excellent way of moving the negotiation along without actually conceding any of your position. Well, Darrin got to the point where he realized that what they really needed to hear from him was that at one point, this agent got more than they had been brought down to. So he flat out turned it around. When he had them negotiated down, he added $300 back to it. I know it's only $300, but to the agent, that gave the agent the ammunition they needed to say, hey, yeah, look, we were down to this, and then I was able to bring it back up. And that's all it took, and he got the deal and wound up with $32,000 in equity on his property, all from good, proper negotiations. So if you're going to buy and hold it, 32 grand in equity is a great deal. If you're going to wholesale it, you'll get a better wholesale fee. If you're going to rehab it, you'll get more money when you go to resell it in the end. It doesn't matter if you're wholesaling, rehabbing, or buying and holding as a landlord. All deals need to be negotiated effectively. That's what works. So Darrin told me that, Tom, there's more to the story, because Darrin's one of my Rapid Cash Generator Bootcamp students. When you come to the bootcamp, I always have students tell me, hey, before we talk about real estate, let's talk about what you've used my negotiation techniques for in other walks of life. Because the interesting thing about negotiation is you get better at all walks of life from it. So it's a matter of, Darrin said to me, he goes, look, I flip motorcycles too. I said, wow, really? Flip motorcycles? That doesn't sound, he goes, no, here's what I do. I take all the techniques that you've taught me, Tom, and I use it to get the price down when I buy a motorbike. Then I ride it around for a few months, and I use all the techniques you taught me to get the price up. And so basically what happens is I have a new bike to ride every few months, and I make a killing on these bikes. I buy them low, and I sell them high, and I have a nice spread in between. $3,000, $4,000 a bike works out to be a nice little side income. His wife doesn't complain that he rides motorcycles, and she actually encourages it now because that's a nice chunk of change coming in off of each and every bike, flat out from getting the negotiation right. Because the key is he took action, not just on the HUD home, but he took action on using negotiation to improve a hobby of his, which is buying and selling motorcycles. I think that's wonderful. So I ask you, what's going to happen when you implement this into your life? Number one reason people lose deals. So we've talked about not finding them. We've talked about not being able to get people to say yes. Let's talk about why people lose deals. It's simple. They use flawed or insufficient contracts. When you have a flawed or insufficient contract, that deal that you've worked hard to find and you've worked hard to make can fall apart and vanish. That's why you need to learn how to get paid properly so you can control things through till the settlement. Once the seller says yes in negotiation, you need to lock it in tight and navigate it through all the pitfalls to settlement. If you get this wrong, you can lose control. Flat out, you'll lose a deal from a lack of control. You can lose a lot of money from flawed or insufficient contracts, and you might have fear and confusion over the legal aspects of the deal. I know the legal side of the business scares a lot of people because you got contracts and you got your name on it and there's responsibility. That's why I built my contracts to be safe for you so you can move ahead fearlessly. The solution is only use solid legal contracts because that is what will allow you to lock the property in tight, be able to bail out if necessary. Again, think about Nevas' first deal, the first lead. It didn't work. Rather than get stuck with that ugly duckling house that no one wanted, she was just able to cancel out of the contract and move on and then find success in future deals. That's because she was able to bail out because my contracts are worded properly for that. This is what allows you to legally secure your profits. Let me introduce you to Godfrey. Godfrey is my #1 Rapid Cash Generator student. He's in his 4th year with me now. He's my #1 bootcamp student. You'll meet him when you come to the boot camps because he comes to all the boot camps. Why is he my top student? Because in his first year out of the gate with me, he did 10 deals and made $248,000 in profits. Now think about that. Out of those 10 deals, 3 of those are rehabs and 7 were wholesales, and $248,000 in profits. That's about 2.5 times what I designed it to do. How did he do that? It's simple. He did what he was told. In fact, it's kind of comic because people go to Godfrey and they say, hey, what do you do? What's the secret? He goes, it's no secret. Tom told me to do these 3 things for marketing. Those are the 3 things that he does. Rather than change the postcard or change the letter, he just uses it exactly as I gave it to him. Why screw around with something that works? He goes, Tom, I'll never understand why you can hand somebody a nice round wheel that spins perfectly, but they still want to go out and reinvent the wheel. That makes no sense. So that's one of Godfrey's secrets to success. Here was his plan when he initially came to me. He said, look, I want to become independent. I want to quit my job and I want to be able to take care of my kids and my grandkids. Godfrey's probably a little older than he looks in the photo. And he's the patriarch of his family, and everyone comes to him, the kids, the grandkids. Everyone's coming to Godfrey for advice and help, and he wanted to be able to take care of them. At the same time, he wanted to get out of the job. Godfrey used to manage a restaurant at a shopping mall, so he didn't have a lot of time. And I know a lot of people say, you know, one of your big complaints is that you don't have the time. Well, Godfrey didn't have the time either. That's why it's important to understand how to do things right and follow the frameworks. And everything I teach you is in a framework format. That way you don't have to think. You know what the parameters of the framework are supposed to be, and then you can freestyle in the framework. But that eliminates the need for you to think, you know, heavy duty about everything. He said, look, Tom, I need a system to follow. I need to be able to do this effectively in spare time that he was going to carve out of his already busy day. I said, that's perfect, because you're going to follow my checklists, don't reinvent the wheel, and learn from the mistakes I've previously made. Every time I make a mistake, I'm not shy about it. I talk about it in my system. I talk about it when you come to my boot camp, because I want you to learn from me. Because quite honestly, if I've made a mistake and experienced pain or lost money from it, then I don't want you to make the same mistake, have the same pain, or lose any more money. I get more value out of my mistake by teaching it to you, and that's what I'm after. So that's what we did with Godfrey. He was particularly stuck on contract questions because he said, you know, I want to be, and I need to be, legally safe and sound before moving forward. He was really bothered by the legal side of it and wanted to make sure that if anything went wrong, he could bail out. So one of the benefits when you come to my boot camp is I do a line-by-line contract understanding. There's two contracts we focus on, and the entire business revolves around these two contracts. The first one is the pro-buyer contract. This is that 4-page contract that you use with the motivated seller. They're the seller, you're the buyer. We go through that line by line, clause by clause, so that you understand it like the back of your hand. Because when you know that, then you never get stuck. Imagine what it would be like to be asked a question about a contract from one of your motivated sellers and know exactly how to answer it. And you just answer it the exact same way I teach you what to say at the boot camp. And you'll know why that clause is there and who it's there to protect and how it works, because we're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We do that for the 4-page pro-buyer contract and for the 1-page assignment contract. That way you have any questions with your buyer or your attorney, you are fully empowered to handle them. You'll know what to say because there will be no doubts about these agreements after you come to boot camp. So the other important things that I talked out here about contracts were that escape clauses need to be solid so that you don't get stuck. So I build multiple escape clauses. These are called weasel clauses, by the way. But do I want you to be a weasel? No. But I don't want you getting stuck. I didn't want Neva getting stuck with that house at the top of the hill that nobody was going to buy, and I didn't want Godfrey getting stuck with any properties that might go wrong. So you put the right escape clauses in there. That way there's an eject button to press if you need to press eject and get out. So that's what they're there for. Because without the right escape clauses, you have problems. But when you do have the right escape clauses in there, you can't screw this up. Think about that. You have absolutely nothing to lose. Even your $100 isn't on the line. I told you, Benjamin Franklin's a friend of mine. I protect my friends. The way my contracts are worded, you get your $100 back if you have to cancel out. So if anything goes wrong, you're safe. That's the way the contracts are built the right way. And what Godfrey particularly liked about this was, given the number of contracts that I give you, he said, geez, Tom, that's easily about $16,000 worth of legal value. I said, absolutely. He goes, good. I'm happy not to spend $16,000 on it because it's much more affordable to invest in my system. So once he had my system and in the boot camp, he understood, look, I've got to focus in on my limited time. I told you he was a manager of a restaurant at a shopping mall. He built a good team of virtual assistants to help him, and when he had calls to make, he would take his break, step out to his car, pull out his notepad, pull out his cell phone, and get down to business. And that's what we taught him how to do. And in his first year, he did 10 deals for $248,000 in profits. Yikes. And you know what he told me? He said, Tom, your contracts work anywhere, because he's working in multiple states. I know that. I've designed my contracts to work in all 50 states, but he went one step further. Godfrey is from Trinidad. He told me that he also did a deal down in Trinidad and used my contracts down there, and they were just fine. So I'll tell you, my contracts work in all 50 states and Trinidad. So if you're interested in a vacation, that sounds like a great spot to be. Now, think back to what were you going to spend your $9,000 on out of your first $9,600 deal that I'm showing you how to make? Because in Godfrey's case, think about what that is. I mean, if every one of you did what Godfrey did, there's absolutely no reason you can't have what it is you say that you want. That's the power of it, and that's the power of doing it the right way. Here's the rest of the story with Godfrey. He told me one of the reasons he was hung up on the legal side of the business at the beginning is because when he met me and when he started with me in the Rapid Cash Generator Bootcamp, he was in bankruptcy. And he was broke. And he had to borrow the money to invest in my bootcamp. He had to borrow the money to come to my training. But think about it. A $5,000 investment then comes back many, many times over when you make almost $250,000 in your first year. It was worth it to him to do that, and it paid off big time. What's the key? The key is that he took action. So I ask you, what happens when you implement all of this into your life? I don't know why specifically you showed up on this webinar. It could be your lack of finding motivated sellers. It could be your inability to get them from no to yes. Or it could be that you flat out don't have the proper legal contracts necessary to make this business work. Well, I have a solution for you. That solution is my Rapid Cash Generator Bootcamp and my Rapid Cash Generator Implementation Kit. I built the Rapid Cash Generator to move you from spinning your wheels and the frustration of spinning your wheels to doing profitable deals. And I've built it in a specific way because I understand how people learn. How is it that people learn? There's three ways. The first way, they're visual. They learn from their eyes. They learn by seeing things in action. Another way people learn is by hearing things. A lot of people, they lead with their hearing, and they want to be able to hear the information so that they can process it. The third kind of learning then is kinesthetic. It's touchy-feely. It's accountability. It's being given tasks to do and working that through. And I have a special way of, like when I had you draw those circles earlier on, when we do that at the boot camp, I do all sorts of different frameworks, and that is to engage you visually, engage you audibly, and engage you kinesthetically with touchy-feely, because you're drawing the frameworks out with me, you're hearing me describe what happens, and you're seeing the shapes and the graphics so it makes sense. It's one of the ways that I surgically implant the business into your head. And that's the way I've designed the implementation kit as well. Part one is the visual side. It's a 3-volume implementation kit on those 3 parts of the business that you need to master. Find the deal, make the deal, and get paid. And there's reading. It's a good read. I wrote it. I encourage you to read all of it because you'll get a lot out of it. Even if you don't, I'm a little obsessive compulsive, to be fair. And I did a hyper detailed table of contents. That way, if you read it through, great. Whether you do or whether you don't, you can have it on the shelf, and when you need to know something, you take it down off the shelf, run your finger down the table of contents, and jump to the exact page that answers the question that you're having. So that was worth it to me to spend the extra time on that kind of hyper-detailed table of contents. I also put detailed write-ups on everything that it takes to make a deal, all the discussion of what it takes to do rapid cash generation right. The second part of my implementation kit is the auditory side. So if you learn by listening, you're going to love it because I have 6 instructional CDs with the system. There's 2 for each part of it. 2 for find the deal, 2 for make the deal, 2 for getting paid. And these are designed to teach you everything you need, and it's designed to be consumed within 6 hours. This is not meant to be a semester or a year or a 4-year degree, an 8-year degree. No. This is meant to be devoured by you in 6 hours. And then you listen to it twice, you're only 12 hours in. In half a day, I can get this information into your mind. And that's what we're after. In addition, there are also 2 forms CDs, data CDs, and these are my comprehensive forms discs. The first one has the legal library. It's 19 different legal contracts. Right? That's a lot of money. That's $22,800 worth of contracts that I give you. Now, there's 19 contracts. I told you the bulk of the business I do with 2 contracts, my 4-page pro-buyer agreement and my 1-page assignment contract. So what are the other 17 for? Consider it an insurance policy. What if something goes wrong? Or what if you get a curveball? Or what if there's a leaseback scenario? Or what if there's a lot of different contracts. I have them in there in case you ever need them. What if you're selling your property? Well, then there's a pro-seller contract. So I have different contracts for different aspects of the deal because I don't know exactly how things are going to work for you, but I want to make sure that you're properly taken care of on the legal side of things. So it's those contracts that allow you to lock in and safely and securely close your deals. And obviously those two contracts there that I've talked about the most, the pro buyer and the assignment contract, are included. And it is more than $22,800 in legal contracts. You could go to the office supply store and buy a real estate purchase agreement, but it's not going to protect you right. And it probably won't allow you to do rapid cash generation wholesaling the right way either. At what I pay attorneys, about $450 an hour, if you figured 2 hours for each contract, and that would be minimal, that works out, it's $22,800 that I've spent on these contracts so that you don't have to. I also have on these Form CDs all of my checklists and all of my worksheets. I told you I run my business via worksheet and checklist. That way I don't have to think about things again and again. I can just move through the entire rapid cash generator process without worry because I know what's going on. The other data disk has all my marketing materials on it. Now, I told you earlier there's 85 different marketing techniques, and I give you postcards and letters and signs and text that you can copy paste for your website. All of that is on one of the data disks as well. And all of that is there for you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, just use it. If you see, when I say it's plug and play, it's plug and play. If it says your name, put your name in. Your address, put your address. If you see a phone number of 555-1212, put in your own phone number. That's as simple as it gets. I want to keep the templates simple so that you can move ahead easily and effectively. That also includes my quick start marketing game plan. So I teach you how to narrow it down. You're not doing 85. I teach you how to narrow it down to 6 so we can choose your top 3. That's what we're after. And I include Spanish materials as well in marketing because pretty much anywhere you are across the country, you're going to have Spanish-speaking sellers, and you shouldn't be ignoring these leads. So the Spanish materials help you deal with that. Now look, if you don't speak Spanish, chances are you'll wind up negotiating with their children anyway because the children of the Spanish-speaking sellers speak fluent English. If not, grab a kid from the local school and they'll do good. Think about Neva's first deal, $14,700 from a postcard, the very same postcard that is in this system. She used a postcard straight out of my system. The fourth part is the kinesthetic side of things. How is it that I get you working with the system? Well, that's why I give you all my private systems checklists and worksheets that take you step by step, particularly with the deal worksheet. The deal worksheet is I don't want to call it a call script, and I don't like scripts because life doesn't follow a script. The deal worksheet lets you have a conversation with a motivated seller on the phone and not ever worry or struggle for what to say. If you don't know what to say, you just go down the list and answer a question that hasn't been, ask them a question that hasn't been answered yet. It's that simple. That's what we're after. It makes every call super duper easy. And I also have all the forms and checklists that you need to run your rapid cash generation business. So to recap, it's a 3-volume implementation kit, 6 audio CDs designed to be consumed in 6 hours, 2 comprehensive form CDs, one with all the marketing templates, one with all the legal contracts, 85 different ready-to-use marketing techniques and templates simplified and explained so that you can get motivated sellers contacting you. I want to turn you into a giant electromagnet for motivated seller leads. That's how we do it. You have a quick start marketing success game plan. This has my top performing postcard and letter sequences in it, the same ones that Neva and Darrin and Mikey and Godfrey have all used to achieve success for themselves. Spanish materials included. All my negotiation techniques are explained and simplified. And that way you get the best price and best terms for maximizing your profits. Negotiation is a lot of fun. We touched on it briefly with Darrin. There's so much more in negotiation, and it's a lot of fun. And when you learn the techniques in the easy way that I teach you, you'll use them with ease, and you're not going to be afraid of them, and you're going to watch the prices that people are offering you drop down to where you need them to be. Because I give you the key steps to becoming a natural negotiator, and that includes even if you fear it. And you'll learn at your own pace because you can read at your own pace, you can listen at your own pace. If you didn't get something, pause, rewind, re-listen, or flip back a page and reread. It's that simple. You can be learning at your own pace. my entire legal library, all 19 contracts, including my pro-buyer agreement and my assignment contract, which the assignment contract has 3 clauses in it I've never seen anywhere else. I custom wrote them with my attorney because they were solving problems that I was having, and I wanted to make sure it worked right. Now, you benefit from those as well. And all the checklists and worksheets to guide you through the pitfalls and maintain control of your deal throughout so that you can be like Darrin and get that $32,000 in equity. It's the same system he's used. I've been doing this for over 17 years, and my implementation kit is $2,000. Now, there's some bonuses included with that. One of my favorite sources for leads is probate. So one of the bonus audios that come with the system is called Creating a Win-Win When Someone Dies. And I know I'm having a little bit of fun with the title, but I mean that seriously. It sounds a little schmaltzy to say, hey, it's a win-win scenario, but I actively aim to create win-win situations. And when someone dies and someone's inherited a property from a deceased parent or an aunt or an uncle or, heaven forbid, a child, that's a difficult situation for them, and they want to get out of that situation gracefully and profitably. And so you build it with them that way. So what this CD does, what this bonus does, is teach you how do you handle probate, how do you find them, how do you market to them, how do you negotiate with them, because it's a little bit different, and then you're able to utilize the marketing materials that are in part 1 of my system. The second bonus is how a $100 assignment turns into $35,988. This is the story of one of my deals where I walk you through putting $100 down on a contract and then wholesaling it for almost $36,000. And I detail out every step of that process along the way so that you learn from it. Here's the interesting thing. I wasn't aiming for $35,988. I was aiming for $36,000. So what happened to the other $12 and why? Because there's actually a really good lesson in that. You'll find out in this bonus audio. And we talked about the importance of a cash buyers list, how important a cash buyers list was to Neva, how important a cash buyers list was to Mike, and how important a cash buyers list is to all my students. That's why this bonus trains you how to build a cash buyers list that acts like an ATM machine. And I told you, I call it my ATM machine because when I put a good deal in, the profits come spitting back out. And building your cash buyers list gives you a quiet confidence. In fact, I'd go so far as to say, I know some of you out there are going, you know, I want to do this, but I'm afraid because what would I do if I actually got a deal? Who would I sell it to? Well, then you know what? If that's your thought process, start with this bonus. Because if you build your ATM machine first, if you build your cash buyers list first, then you'll have the confidence to know that anything you find, you'll know who to sell it to. Plus, those buyers are going to be clamoring for deals, and you're going to learn that from the process of building your cash buyers list. And so you'll be even more motivated to focus in on marketing the way I show you. That way you're able to give your cash buyers list the deals that they're after. And the fourth bonus is massive tax-free investing in IRAs. Now, this is interesting. When I showed you earlier, I talked about I'm the wholesaler. That's not exactly true. I don't wholesale anything in my own name anymore. Nor do I need to do it in my LLC name. I do all my deals inside of a self-directed Roth IRA or inside of, I have 2 children, inside of their Coverdell educational savings accounts. It's the same thing. It's like a Roth IRA for kids to spend on education. But what these accounts allow me to do is avoid tax completely on my deals. So if I make a $9,600 wholesale, I don't lose a third of that in tax. I keep all of it in my account. So I walk you through there with my custodian. I walk you through exactly how I do that and why it's beneficial to you and how you can do it as well to save on tax. Remember, you're saving between a 25 to 40% in tax. This helps you. Why should you lose all that money? This disc will show you how to avoid that. And the bonuses are not sold separately. You can't buy these on my website separately. They only come as part of the system. It's my entire implementation kit and system that makes the puzzle come together. The different pieces are going to make sense, and I guarantee it. I guarantee my implementation kit that it's going to work. I designed it to work. I use it. I know it works. It works with my students. So here's my guarantee to you. Invest in the implementation kit. Use it and put it to work. When it works, you'll be happy. If it doesn't work, show me what you did, and I'll buy it back off of you. So you have nothing to lose. I'll buy it back off of you if it doesn't work. That's my guarantee to you. You have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain. let's change the price for you in honor of the webinar. So if it's 17 plus years with the system, it's normally $2,000. That's what I sell it for online. Let's go webinar only, $997. $997 for 17 plus years of my implementation kit in the system is what you need. Let's talk about my boot camp. I told you I have the implementation kit and a boot camp. It's a 3-day boot camp. The Rapid Cash Generator boot camp is 3 solid days, and I do it 3 times a year. This is ongoing training for you, ongoing training that's designed to progressively move you to $100,000 in profits within 12 months. So we're going to start with your first $9,600 deal, and then we're going to progressively move you up from there. And we're going to keep chipping away until you're at $100,000 within a year. Is that difficult? Think about that. That's roughly about 10 deals. So that's less than a deal a month. In 10 deals, there's 12 months in a year. I'm saying in less than 1 deal a month, you can be getting to that number. Here's how it works. I want you coming back again and again. I do the boot camp 3 times every year. You have the right to repeat the boot camp as many times as you would like. You invest 1 time now, and then you are in forever. I plan on being around for a long time, and I will continue to keep doing the boot camp. Invest once and come again and again and again. Because the goal at the boot camp is to improve where you're at and tweak, improve and tweak, improve and tweak, then improve and tweak again and again. And that's how we'll build you up so that you are bringing in that extra $100,000 a year to your bottom line. It's 3 times a year, it's lifetime lifetime attendance, and that includes the implementation kit. You're not paying extra for the implementation kit. We talked about the implementation kit already. That's included with the boot camp because you need to have all the materials. Okay? So what do you get at boot camp? You get networking, you get camaraderie, you get community. You'll meet other investors. I have students doing deals with each other. Some wholesale from one to the other. Some partner up and do deals. Some are on their own. It's a mix of everybody because you learn and you network, and there's challenges going on between students. But hey, by the next boot camp, I want to be at this level or the next level up. There's a lot of good camaraderie because you know what happens? I've created an environment of high performance individuals and people who have a high performance mindset, and they want to become a high performance individual. You don't just find that on the street. And so when it's there, you get kind of addicted to it, and it's great, and that's one of the ways we keep everyone moving up. At the boot camp, it's hot seat. I bring people up to the hot seat, I put them in the hot seat, and we blow through all of your problems. What is your problem? What are you stuck on? I show you how I can get through anything in pretty much 5 to 8 minutes, and it works out fabulously. We move you up to what the next step is, and you learn what that process is like, so it improves you as a real estate investor. It's unlimited Q&A across the 3 days. It's 3 days. I go 9 to 6 each day, and throughout the day, it is unlimited questions and answers with me because I want to leave no stone unturned. I want you making sure that you are completely fulfilled throughout those 3 days with me. Then on the 4th day, I collapse in exhaustion. So it's good that way. You will get all of my frameworks. I took you through my main framework earlier, the Rapid Cash Generator model. We'll take a look at all those. I hand draw them usually. For the sake of the webinar, I did that one electronically. I'm going to hand draw all of them at the boot camp. And we basically, I tear them off the pad and I hang them on the ballroom wall. We're going to redecorate the entire ballroom with frameworks because that is how you learn visually, audibly, and kinesthetically. I will make sure I surgically implant the business into your mind, and that's how I do it, is by having you draw along with me with the frameworks. It's a beautiful thing. That, like I said, that's surgically injecting the business in your head. By the end of it, you're ready to go. I only need 3 days with you. 3 days in the implementation kit, you're good to go. You could take the implementation kit and run with it on your own. It's that good and it's that ready for you. But if you want to have that extra push and get in the mindset and some of the expanded topics that I can get into when I have you live, then I encourage you to be at the boot camp. You don't need a 4-year degree. You don't need a PhD. All you need to get going in real estate investing and real estate wholesaling is 3 days with me at boot camp. Boot camp is $5,000. And think about what Godfrey did with that investment that he borrowed and then turned it into almost $250,000. There's a reason Godfrey comes to so many boot camps, and he just comes again and again and again. It's because he knows he's going to move up the rank each and every time. Now, I don't know where you're coming from. You might have to fly in to the Washington, D.C. area where I do the events. You might be local, but I still encourage you to stay at the hotel. It just makes things better for you. So I'm going to give you a travel and hotel allowance because I want you staying really focused at the event. So let's cross off the $5,000. You can get the boot camp for $24.97, and that is on this webinar only, this event only. I'll show you where to go in a minute. I also guarantee the boot camp. Here's my boot camp guarantee. Attend the event. Come to the first half. All right, so that's lunchtime on day 2. If you're not absolutely thrilled and in love with what you're learning, and you can't see how that's going to make a radical difference in your real estate investing business in your life, then ask me for a refund and you'll get a refund back. And you'll get to keep the implementation kit because I don't expect you to bring it anyway. So attend the event, come to half of it, tell me you're not in love with it, and I refund your money. Again, you have absolutely nothing to lose. I've taken all the risk on myself. I can do this, and I can do this at affordable rates because I'm not carrying huge amounts of overhead. You're going to be taught by me. It's not going to be a massive sell-a-thon. There's not going to be 17 different speakers. It's not going to be one pitch after another. It's me training you, serious training, hardcore training throughout the entire event because that's my mission. My mission is to share the talent. My mission is to create more Mikeys, more Godfreys, more Nevas, more Darrins. So I keep the price affordable, and I guarantee it. So order now. Go to tractionmentors.com/now, N-O-W, and that is valid now only. So quite simply go to tractionmentors.com/now, and you can get either the implementation kit or the implementation kit plus the boot camp. And the boot camp, if you can't make one of the dates, you'll see the upcoming dates on there. If you can't make one of the dates, that's okay. You make a future date. This offer, the price has gone up on the boot camp. I will be raising it again. It's not going to be offered like this again. So I would encourage you to invest now because you come again and again and again because the bonus is the lifetime reattendance. So go to tractionmentors.com/now and we'll get you started today. With that being said, I thank everybody for attending the webinar. Hope you got a lot out of it. All the stories, the lessons, the techniques, it's all there to help you grow. And that's exactly what we're going to do in the Rapid Cash Generator Implementation Kit and at the Bootcamp. With that being said, go to tractionmentors.com/Tom, and I'll see you soon.